These days, it feels like liking Spider-Man, you're pretty spoiled for choice. You've got 3 great live-action adaptations, Spider-Verse, the Insomniac games, decades worth of iconic comics, Toei's weird live-action Spider-Man, and a couple of really great cartoons. Oh, and this one. This one's weird.
Huh?
Let's back up a second, though, and talk about the best Spider-Man first. Spider-Man the Animated Series began airing on Fox Kids in 1994 and was an overnight hit. Over its 65-episode run, Spider-Man faced off against a ton of his most iconic villains, teamed up with some of Marvel's most iconic heroes, and cemented Christopher Daniel Barnes as the voice of Spider-Man for a whole generation.
Anyway, this lizard thing is probably just an urban myth. Wait a minute, looks like I was myth-taken.
This show was really something. I finally got a chance to sit down and watch the whole thing all the way through last year, but when that last episode finished, one thought crossed my mind. That's it? Yeah, Spider-Man 94 ended a little bit prematurely due to funding issues, leaving off on a cliffhanger with Peter and Madam Web off to search the multiverse for Mary Jane, who had fallen through a dimensional portal a couple seasons back. I was kinda bummed out. And then I learned about Spider-Man Unlimited, which came out in 1999 following the end of the first show. And around the time I was thinking of watching it, a new trailer for Across the Spider-Verse dropped. So I took to the internet to do what any lazy content creator does and make a short pointing out all the cool variants. And who do I see but Spider-Man Unlimited? And then I said something that stirred up a little bit of controversy. Then we've got Spider-Man Unlimited, the variant of Peter Parker from the show of the same name. This is also the Spider-Man seen in 1994's Spider-Man the Animated Series. There were a lot of people that took issue with this, prompting me to dive a little bit deeper into the issue. So join me today as we ask the question, is Spider-Man Unlimited a sequel? The premise of Unlimited is that Venom and Carnage have stowed away aboard a rocket bound for Counter-Earth, carrying astronaut John Jameson, son of J. Jonah Jameson. Counter-Earth, as you might know if you've seen Guardians 3, is the homeworld of the Bestials, man-animal hybrids created by the High Evolutionary who oppress the human minority. So now it's up to Spider-Man to go rescue John Jameson, aid the Resistance, and face off against the symbiotes. And already we've got a pretty big problem with this show. The symbiotes. In Spider-Man 94, Venom teams up with Spider-Man to stop Carnage from opening a portal for Dormammu, leading Venom to plunge the both of them into the portal, never to be seen again. So why are they back now, and why are they working together? This brings us to our first major obstacle for Unlimited being a sequel, Spider-Man 94's showrunner. The first thing I noticed in that flawed Spider-Man Unlimited series that followed ours was that they had Venom and Carnage in the first episode, and both were speaking in the singular. That's how I knew right away that the writers of that short-lived series had not done their homework. And let me state for the record that my series and that Unlimited series are not connected in any way, shape, or form. John Semper Jr. Alright, so he's totally right about the grammar, but the comics have slipped up on this too from time to time, so I'm not sure this is actually as big a deal as he thinks it is. Inconsistencies, especially ones involving little dialogue quirks, are going to crop up once in a while in productions like this. I'd also like to address the whole Unlimited's writers not doing their homework thing. This series was made after the deal that gave Sony film and TV rights to classic Spider-Man stories and the classic Spider-Man costume. This is largely the reason for setting this series out in space and bringing back these unlikely villains, and also the reason for Peter's new suit.
This year's fully loaded model features nanotechnology, discreetly borrowed from the lab of Reed Richards. This scientific marvel features billions of microscopic robots working in harmony to make one spiffy set of duds, complete with optional anti-symbiote devices.
Normal Spider-Man stuff was totally off limits here to the writers, so I'm willing to forgive some inconsistency in this case. I'm also not really sure if Semper gets to decide how this canon works. That seems like something that'd be more up to Fox or Marvel. You know, maybe if he'd spoke up in 1999, but this quote is from 2015. What's maybe a little bit more strange about Venom and Carnage are their redesigns. So strange, in fact, that even Peter notices, making it okay, I guess?
Hey, you two could never morph like that before? I just may be outgunned here.
Sorry, Webhead, but this flight's booked. Nothing's going to stop us from reaching Counter-Earth and the Synoptic.
The Synoptic? I'm impressed. Snazzy new powers and a vocabulary to match.
To me, this feels a lot like the writers doing a meta thing and going, hey, if Peter thinks it's weird too, we don't have to explain anything. But hey, it works, I guess. These guys are still clearly meant to be the Venom and Carnage from 94. There's a whole flashback scene that depicts their origins, and it's exactly the same way as 94. In the first episode, we also get to hear a little bit of the Spider-Man 94 theme.
But what could possibly be...
So clearly, Fox wanted people to think this was a sequel. Using that music wasn't some kind of accident. People seem to ignore this a lot, and I've even seen some people claim Fox actually wasn't allowed to use this theme. I haven't really been able to find any proof of that, so if you know anything about this, I'd love to hear more. So we've got reused music, flashbacks, and some degree of self-awareness regarding some inconsistencies. I know that's not a lot to go off of, but we also don't have any major obstacles. Oh, wait a second, here's one. Wizard Magazine, issue 97, which contains an interview with the showrunner for Unlimited. He says it's a midquel. Okay, so this is really dumb, and we need to talk about how dumb this is. In Unlimited, New York hates Spider-Man, and not in the whole "he's a menace to the entire city" kind of way. They really hate this guy. So the idea that he just leaves Earth with a suit made of tech he stole from Mr. Fantastic, does a bunch of space stuff, and comes back to a city that likes him again, makes absolutely no sense. But couldn't bringing John Jameson back have cleared his name? No. Unlimited ended on a cliffhanger, and we never see John later in the 94 series, so we have nothing suggesting Unlimited's rescue mission actually took place. And in the latter parts of 94, J. Jonah Jameson still thinks he's a menace, which suggests this definitely didn't happen. Otherwise, maybe he'd go a little bit easier on the guy who saved his son. Alright, so maybe we don't have any impassable obstacles. With that silly idea shot down, let's go back to the sequel theory. It turns out Spider-Man Unlimited has popped up in the comics a couple times. In Spider-Geddon, we see a bunch of Spider people from all over the multiverse, including, you guessed it, Spider-Man Unlimited. But it's not just him. There are two other interesting cameos. Insomniac's video game Spider-Man and Toei's Japanese Spider-Man, the emissary of hell himself. Alright, so Spider people from other media can appear in the comics. Why does this matter? Another variant of Spider-Man Unlimited appeared in the comics a few years earlier, who, according to writer Dan Slott, was also a 94 variant in his past. And all these variants are assumed to have a pretty similar, if not identical history. Which of course suggests that our guy was also Spider-Man 94 in his past, thus making Spider-Man 94 a sequel to Unlimited. So, great, case closed, right? Unlimited is a sequel. Slow down, not quite. These parallels mean the sequel angle is probably the case, but there's no way to give any kind of a definitive answer or build any more off of what we've got here. Unfortunately, not much else has really been said on this topic over the years. Any kind of conclusion is technically in the realm of headcanon. But again, the probable parallel between Slott's Unlimited variant and the Fox Kids variant does leave the sequel theory with a lot of credibility. So, is it fair to call Spider-Man Unlimited a sequel? Well, Fox clearly intended for viewers to think this was the case, and it sure seems to be the case in Dan Slott's mind. So, as long as you acknowledge that nothing is confirmed and it's only almost canon, then yes, Spider-Man Unlimited is a sequel. And who knows, maybe Across the Spider-Verse will shed some light on things. I'm not going to hold my breath for this though. This is totally just going to be a neat little cameo and nothing more. But one that I'm, nevertheless, looking forward to. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm finally going to go watch Across the Spider-Verse.